What's going on, guys? Playbox here. We're back for another Dragon Ball Legends video. In this one, we're going to be going over the best way, or I should say the proper way, to utilize Blast Armor in the game. Now, for those of you who don't know what Blast Armor is, basically it's a shield that is on your unit when you're using a strike card or a green card or an ultimate move or even a special move, lunging forward special move. It basically gives you a barrier over your unit that avoids blast cards. So usually if you use a regular strike card or anything like that, you would get hit by the blast card if you go for a strike over it, right? But with Blast Armor, you're able to go through it. You will still take damage from the blast, but you are able to go through it and potentially land a hit on your opponent. Now, I don't know if you've noticed, but ever since the 4th anniversary, there's been many units, or even you could say even before that, there's been just an abundance of units that have been getting Blast Armor on in their kit, and not just in their ultimate, because a lot of units already have Blast Armor on their ultimate, but recently especially there's been a lot of units with Blast Armor on their strike card. So if you actually take a look at, let's say for example, the Legends Limited units, the last 5 Legends Limited, like 4, ever since the anniversary. LF Trunks right here has Blast Armor. Full Power Cooler, Final Form Cooler has Blast Armor. Ultra Broly has Blast Armor. Beast Gohan has Blast Armor. And then now the Tag Super Saiyan 4s as well has Blast Armor. So all the meta relevant units in the game right now, with the exception of, you could say, Super Vegito, and maybe even Super Saiyan 4 LF Goku, like all these units have Blast Armor in their kits. So I think being able to properly utilize it is going to be very crucial and very important for you to step up your gameplay, especially in the higher ranks where a lot of these people already are familiar with how to utilize them and the best way to utilize it. So in this one, I'm just going to go over the best ways, some little tips and tricks. There aren't that many, but I'm just going to go over what is available for you guys so that you can get better in utilizing Blast Armor. So yeah, without further ado, let's hop in straight into the guide. Alright, so the first tip is going to be pretty much your playstyle when utilizing units with Blast Armor. You can actually go rewatch some of my, let's say, God rank grinding videos, or even just regular PvP videos where I'm showcasing a unit with Blast Armor. You can see that first off, just before the match even starts, I like to usually start off with the unit that has Blast Armor. Now, that gives me a chance to, for example, if the enemy goes for a blast card right off the bat, I'm able to straight up go with a strike card and catch them in the mid-range, right? The mid-range portion of the battle is going to be where you want to, I guess, reside for the most part, because the advantage with Blast Armor, especially at mid-range, is if you're able to catch your opponent doing a Blast Arts or something like that, and utilize your strike or ultimate or whatever that has Blast Armor, they won't be able to escape it. Where in contrast to if you were to utilize the Blast Armor at long range when your opponent goes for a blast card, they still have a chance to vanish it out. So what you want to do is always try to float in and out of the mid-range. You don't want to maybe stay too long there, because then it can get easy for you to slip up and them able to capitalize on your mistake. But floating in and out, see whether they want to go for a blast card or something, because most of the time when you're kind of slowly floating in to the mid-range, your opponent might be in the middle of utilizing a blast card, so they don't have time to stop it, right? So you can capitalize on that just by using the strike card and able to start a combo like that. That would be probably the best way you want to utilize Blast Armor right off the bat, is just trying to fight at mid-range and see if you can, catch your opponent off guard or something like that and start a combo from there. Now, we all know already the legendary mid-range strike, people that just go for mid-range strike off from the mid-range, just off of nothing, right? And if you able to vanish it out, you can pretty much almost always start a combo there if you vanish early enough. But the thing with Blast Armor is, if you're against a unit, or even if you're using a unit with Blast Armor, most of the time your opponent is trying to catch you in the mid-range to utilize their Blast Armor as well. So they might not be fast enough to evade your attack. So if you go for a mid-range strike in that scenario, you have a higher chance of catching them off guard and actually them not being able to vanish out, and you would probably be able to start off your combo like that, which is why sometimes you see people going for mid-range strikes when your opponent is utilizing Blast Armor. So that's obviously more effective than just straight up going for a mid-range strike for no reason with no Blast Armor whatsoever. So it's something to think about. And this also doesn't have to apply to units that have strike Blast Armor, right? You can do this with ultimates, green cards, or whatever the case. With whatever you have that has Blast Armor, you can try to manage it and move around in the mid-range. The main point of this is to just kind of stay comfortable near the mid-range, because that's your best chance to catch the opponent off guard and start a combo from there. This can also be especially useful when you have ways to stop time at mid-range. So for example, let's say you're once again using a unit with blast armor and you have like a green card stop time, or you have your main ability active. If you're at mid-range and you pop one of these cards or main ability and you see that your opponent uses an exclamation mark, you're more than safe to use your strike card, ultimate, or whatever, because unless it's a rising rush, whatever they throw at you, you're able to go through it with an ultimate, for example, or even a strike card. If they go for a blast card, if they go for a tackle, you're able to do anything. So just being at mid-range and then popping something that can stop time will be especially useful for units whenever you have a blast armor. This next tip is called blast armor cancel. Basically what you do is when you're at long range, I'm pretty sure I showed this off in a previous video where I went over some tips and tricks for PvP, but basically just to reiterate, when you're at long range and your opponent goes for a blast card, you obviously, if you have blast armor, you're able to pierce through it, but most of the time your opponent will be able to vanish out unless you perfectly time it and you use your strike, blast, whatever card that has blast armor, the same second that the opponent uses their blast card. If it's not the same second, if it's slightly delayed, then your opponent has the chance to vanish out. But in certain cases, a lot of people, especially in the higher ranks, what they would do is when your opponent goes for a blast card, you as a player would go for your strike or whatever. It would always be your strike card, because what you have to do is you want to go for your strike card when they use the blast card and cancel at mid-range, what I mean by that is sidestep at mid-range. So just go for the strike and swipe left or right, which will cancel the strike card. And in most cases, your opponent is going to key cancel, which is swiping forward right after using a blast card. They're gonna swipe forward and try to dodge it because they see you coming in with the strike card, right? So they see the strike card coming and they want to vanish out of it. But since you're canceling at mid-range, you're gonna see them sidestepping literally right after you sidestep. And if you're fast enough, you're able to capitalize on that and use a strike card in that instant, strike or even a blast card in that instant. And you'll be able to start off a combo, because you'll most of the time catch them off guard, and it's basically like catching them in a sidestep. You're able to gain priority that way, and then you'll be able to start off a combo right like that. On the screen, you'll most likely see some gameplay of me actually utilizing this technique. It's very, very effective, but just like any other technique that you would be using in PvP, use it sparingly. You don't want to be spamming this all the time, because then your playstyle will get a bit too repetitive, and then if your opponent is actually good enough, then they'll realize you've been doing the same thing over and over again, and they'll adjust their gameplay. So sometimes if you've been doing this too much, instead of actually canceling your strike at mid-range, you would want to go full force, because then your opponent might not go for a sidestep, so you'll actually gain priority that way. So mix it up is always a good idea to do that, because like I said, you don't want your playstyle to just be stale and repetitive for them to be able to predict you. Another small tip I want to add is, when you're kind of sidestepping after, let's say, in any case where you're sidestepping and your opponent is ready to take advantage of your sidestep and go for a card, if in certain cases, if they don't go for a strike card and they go for a blast card instead, you as a player, you can actually just use a strike card with blast card, or like I said, any card that has blast armor on it. And if you do that, you're able to go through the blast cards and gain priority that way. Most people end up going for strike cards in that instance, so this is not going to work anyway. But for the off chances that your opponent does go for a blast card when they catch you on a sidestep, you go for a strike, green, blue card, whatever that has blast armor, you're going to be able to pierce through the blast cards and gain priority that way. It's not going to always happen, but it's something to keep note of, especially for people that sidestep very fast and go for a strike card like that. It can be pretty useful in those cases. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Like I said in the beginning, there's not really that much to go through, but just with this information, it's going to be very, very helpful for just playing in PvP in general, because like I said, there are most of the meta relevant units right now have blast armor, so being able to utilize it to its full potential can make your gameplay a lot better. And who knows, that might be the boost that you need to rank up even further and try to beat your previous PvP record. So hope you guys found this video helpful. If you did, please leave a like and don't forget to subscribe, because it's so important, so don't forget. Other than that, have a great day. See ya.